I'm not sure how much faith I have in Arkansas this year. There have been so many seasons over the last 2 decades where Arkansas has entered a season with high expectations and tons of talent, only to fall short, disappoint, and break their fans' hearts. They did it last year, and I'm afraid they might do it again this year. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today as we break down everything you need to know about the Arkansas Razorbacks, predicting their schedule and record for this upcoming season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. Our exclusive expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. You do not want to miss out on those picks, guys. One of the lowest prices in the country, from the best picks in the country, beating out over 80% of the national analysts each of the last 5 years. Yes, 80% of the national analysts each of the last 5 years. We're beating them out. It's guaranteed money right back in your pocket. Go sign up today for a full year-long subscription. Also, check out our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round. Only content that will be posted to Patreon. You become a member of our Patreon Wall of Fame, be mentioned and a part of every single Gridiron Expert video. And also check out our mailing address down in the description below. We've got some Arkansas gear up here, but we'd love to continue to add more. Send us some Arkansas gear, any SEC gear, or your team's gear as we continue to expand our GE Nation from coast to coast and represent them in every single video. So let's take a look at Arkansas, guys. I've got nothing against the Razorbacks, right? Love Arkansas, love Sam Pittman, love what he's doing in Fayetteville, and he's done a phenomenal job turning this program around and making them respectable after the disaster that was the Chad Morris era. I always want Arkansas to do well. But you look at what happened last year. 7-6 for the Razorbacks, a year where they thought they were going to be, not SEC title contenders per se, but really building something after that 9-win season in 2021. Arkansas went up to number 10 in the country after a strong start and then collapsed. 7-6, their final record, 4 losses by 1 possession, including loss to A&M, Liberty, LSU, and Missouri. Games that they really should have won, every single one of those. It's just the Arkansas way. They don't call them the Heartbreak Hogs for nothing. You take a look at the offense heading into this year, though. The strength of this team is the offense. I love the hire by Sam Pittman. New offensive coordinator Dan Enos is going to thrive at Arkansas. Keep in mind, he was the offensive coordinator for the Razorbacks from 2015 to 2017 and did a phenomenal job there, developing Brandon Allen in his final year in 2015 and then Austin Allen in 16 and partially 17 before he went down with injury. He's got a better quarterback than those guys combined. KJ Jefferson is in now for Arkansas, of course, over 2,600 yards and 24 touchdowns last year. Just 5 interceptions. Does a phenomenal job taking care of the football. He also rushed for 640 yards and 9 touchdowns. Some want to call him a poor man's Cam Newton. He's one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the SEC, but in the country. Arkansas also has one of the best running backs in the country. Rocket Sanders returning after rushing for over 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns last year. They have A.J. Green in the backfield as well. Dominique Johnson, Rashad Dubinion. The backfield's really, really solid, but it's led by Rocket. It's going to be an unbelievable back this year. Him and Quinshon Judkins at Ole Miss, the best running backs in the SEC. The wide receiver position is key. They lose their top 4 pass catches from last year, but they add a lot of transfers. That's what Sam Pittman hit hard. Isaac Tesla transferring in from D2 Hillsdale after catching over 1,300 yards there last year. Andrew Armstrong transferring in from Texas A&M Commerce. Isaiah Zategna coming in as well. The talent is there. It's just a lot of unproven talent for the Razorbacks. Guys coming in from smaller programs, how can they translate to the SEC? Defensively, Arkansas needs help. That was their weakness last year, right? It was god-awful. 29.5 points per game. That's what they were giving up. Had one of the worst secondaries in the country last year, giving up 295 passing yards per game, but a lot of that can be chalked up to injuries. Arkansas, across the board, both sides of the ball was hit with the injury bug, and that was a major reason for a lot of those losses that we mentioned earlier. But defensively, this decimated. They lose Jalen Catalon early in the secondary. They lose Ladarius Bishop early in the secondary. So just like that, the secondary was destroyed, and it showed all season long. Travis Williams now comes in as the new defensive coordinator for the Hogs, coming over from UCF. Also spent some time at Auburn under Gus Malzahn. I think he's going to do a phenomenal job. Young guy, brings a lot of energy. I love his style that he's bringing to Fayetteville, and this defense will be drastically improved. Keep in mind, the secondary was terrible. Up front, Arkansas not too bad. Set a program record and led the SEC with 42 sacks in 2022, including 20 sacks in their first 4 games. They had Trajan Jeffcoat on the defensive line from Missouri, Antonio Greer at linebacker from South Florida. Chris Paul is back at linebacker, replacing those 2 guys, Greer and Paul, replacing Drew Sanders and Bumper Poole. Al Walcott and Lorando Johnson both transferring into the secondary from Baylor. Dwight McGlothern back as one of the best cornerbacks in the SEC. This defense for Arkansas should be drastically improved. 29.5 points per game last year. Could see that drop down to around 23 points per game this year if they're lucky and if they can stay healthy. So all that being said, guys, again, Arkansas's got the talent. They've got the coach. They've got the staff. This is a good Arkansas team. Can they deliver and bounce back after a disappointing 2022 season? We take a look at their schedule. They're starting 3-0. We'll jump into it quickly. They're starting 3-0. They'll beat Western Carolina. They'll beat Kent State, and I think they beat BYU. A night game in Fayetteville against a BYU team that Arkansas beat 52-35 last year with 644 yards of offense, including 277 on the ground. I think Arkansas can replicate that. BYU's going to be solid. First year in the Big 12 for the Cougars. New defensive coordinator in Jay Hill. But they're bringing in a lot of new pieces. New staff, new players, new quarterback in Keaton Slovis transferring in from Pittsburgh. Now you're coming to a hostile Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium at night. I just don't see Arkansas losing this game. They can win at Provo last year. They're definitely winning in Fayetteville this year with arguably a better and much healthier team. So Arkansas's 3-0. Then they head into conference play. That's where it gets tough. First game of the year in conference play? Death Valley at LSU. Probably going to be a night game, knowing how the time typically works for Arkansas. Look, Arkansas should have beat LSU last year. They lost 13-10. 13-10 without KJ Jefferson, mind you. Did not have KJ Jefferson. They had to start Malik Hornsby, who was terrible. Couldn't get the ball moving offensively at all. The Razorbacks defense did everything they could to win them that game. Had 7 sacks in the game, held LSU and Jaden Daniels to 86 passing yards on the day. But Arkansas's Achilles heel, like it was during the Bielema era, like it was in the Morris era, and like it's been slightly in the Pittman era, especially last year, is they couldn't score in the red zone. Arkansas should have won this game. They recovered a fumble at the LSU 10-yard line, had a chance to get a touchdown, was stuffed on 4th down at the LSU 2-yard line, didn't get points out of it. Had they kicked a field goal, the game would have gone to overtime at the end of the game, obviously. Had they scored a touchdown, they probably would have won the game. But they lost 13-10, ended up having to go to Cade Fortin at quarterback, who actually threw the lone touchdown for the Razorbacks. It just didn't work out. Now this year, you go to Death Valley. You play an LSU team that's 10 times better than they were last year. Jaden Daniels is back, 1,000-yard receivers back. All their rushers are back. The defense is unbelievable. It's in Death Valley, Arkansas. I just don't see winning this game. They typically play LSU close. It's a fun rivalry game, battle for the Golden Boot. LSU retains it this year at home. The Razorbacks drop their first game. Then they play A&M, Texas A&M in Arlington. Look, A&M has Arkansas's number. Arkansas cannot get over the hump. I know they beat the Aggies 2 years ago, and they should have beat Texas A&M last year. I'll tell you right now, this loss for Arkansas last year to Texas A&M, they lost 23-21 to the Aggies. It broke them. The season for Arkansas ended when they lost to Texas A&M. And I'll be more specific, the season for Arkansas ended when KJ Jefferson tried to leap over the goal line, fumbled, and Texas A&M took it to the house and made it a 14-13 game going into halftime instead of a 21-7 game for the Razorbacks. Completely changed the momentum and ended Arkansas' season. The Razorbacks tried to rally, had a shot to win it at the end. That field goal missed off the tip of the upright, an unreal ending. But that fumble cost Arkansas the game. Ultimately, a lot of other things did too. It cost Arkansas the game. It ended their season. They never mentally were able to recover from that. A&M has some sort of stronghold on the Razorbacks. I mean, it was just such a big missed opportunity for Arkansas. Top 10 team of the country. You win that. College game day probably comes to Fayetteville the next week for your game against Alabama, and everything just fell apart because of one crazy freak play for KJ, and then, of course, the missed field goal. A&M now, guys, is loaded. 20 starters are back, and guess what? Who's on the opposite sideline for Arkansas? They're facing off against new A&M offensive coordinator Bobby Petrino, the former Razorbacks coach from 2008 to 2011. Brought Razorback fans some of the best years in program history back in 2010 and 2011. Petrino also, last year, was the head coach of Missouri State and nearly beat Arkansas leading by 17 points last year in Fayetteville for the Razorbacks rallied to win 38-27. So Petrino, back-to-back years, he'll be playing his former school, and he didn't win last year, but he's going to win this year. Arkansas, guys, has lost 10 of the last 11 to the Aggies, 6 of those by 1 possession. I just don't see how they beat A&M this year. So much talent coming back. Petrino's offense is going to be lighting up this Razorback defense that improves, but doesn't improve enough. Again, it's one of those things where, yeah, I know Arkansas won 2 years ago, but I'm still struggling to pick the Razorbacks over the Aggies until they can show me more consistency against this team. And A&M's going to be dang good this year. Razorbacks lose a close one. They're 3-2. They go on the road to Ole Miss. Another game that's typically close, a lot of fun between the Razorbacks and the Rebels. They beat Ole Miss last year 42-27. The year before that, in Oxford, they lost 52-51, the game coming down to the 2-point conversion that the Hogs missed. It's going to be fun. A lot of offense in between these two teams, and it's going to be close. 5 of the last 8 decided by 1 possession. I'm pumped for it. This is the game that could be the turning point of Arkansas season. You lose to LSU, you lose to A&M, okay. Can you beat Ole Miss? I don't think they can on the road. I love the matchup. We talk about quarterback matchups. This one doesn't have the sexiest of quarterback matchups, but running backs, it does. Rocket Sanders, Quinshawn Judkins, this is going to be an epic game on the ground. Who's going to get the stop defensively? Neither defense is all that great, but I'm going to give the edge to Ole Miss. A little bit more of an experienced defense. Obviously have home field advantage on their side. Arkansas might even own the offensive edge, period, but I'm going to give Ole Miss the edge in the other two. Home field advantage playing the slight factor here. The Rebels get a close win, despite Arkansas winning by 15 last year. They won by 15 last year, led 42-6 at one point, but I just don't see it happening. Arkansas gave up 170 rushing yards per game last year. Judkins is going to have himself a pretty big day on the ground. So the Hogs lose that one. Then they lose on the road to Alabama, a team they lost to 49-26 last year. They've lost 16 straight games to the Crimson Tide. There's not much to talk about here. They're not beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So they go from 3-0 to 3-4, which is just like what's happened the last few years. Arkansas, the last 2 years, has found themselves, undefeated in the top 10. Things are looking great. And they went through a losing streak in 2021, which started with that blowout loss to Georgia, then the loss to Ole Miss, and the loss to Auburn. Then last year, top 10 team, looking good, lost to Texas A&M, lost to Alabama, lost to Mississippi State, just completely fell apart. That's exactly what happens here again. The schedule is just so tough in the middle of the year. They come back home to take on Mississippi State. I do think they end their losing streak to the Bulldogs. I think they do. Last year, they had to play in Starkville against the Bulldogs without KJ Jefferson. They lost 40-17, had no answer for that offense. But now you look at the Bulldogs now, they're bringing in a new coach in Zach Arnett due to the tragic passing of Mike Leach. So the schemes are changing a little bit. The Bulldogs defensively should be solid once again, but only 4 starters are back. And I do have faith in this Razorback secondary by this point in the year to have kind of worked out some kinks, to be a little bit better, and to slow down Will Rogers in that passing attack. Home field advantage is going to be key here. Look, it's a sin that this is going to be the first home game for Arkansas since September 16th. They play BYU on September 16th and don't come back home until October 21st, over a month away from home. It's ridiculous. Razorback fans are going to show up and show out, finally getting to see their team back home for the first time in over a month. They beat a Bulldogs team that's going to struggle for a bowl game this year, and they're at 500 heading in to their bye week, a late bye week at that. So you look at this point, guys, they're 4-4. Best you can do is 8-4. It's a mediocre season again. It's nothing special, but Arkansas, just needs to continue to improve. Won 6 games in the regular season last year. Maybe they can improve on that this year. They come out of their bye week and take on Florida. And it's one of those things where, on paper, Arkansas is significantly better than Florida. I mean, no doubt about it. They own the quarterback edge. One could argue they own the rushing edge. Wide receivers up in the air. If these guys, these transfers pan out for Arkansas, they own the edge there. Defensively, Florida might own the edge. They're going to be very, very physical. But if Arkansas improves, it's going to be very close. But look, it's another factor here is the home field advantage, the swamp, the mental factor. Arkansas's never won at Florida. They're 0-5 all-time at Florida. They're 2-10 overall against the Gators, including a couple of SEC championship losses there. The Gators, I don't expect to be all that great this year, but this just feels like the stereotypical game where you come out of the bye week, you're well-rested, you're facing a Florida team that's probably not all that good this year, probably 3 wins heading into this game. Arkansas on paper should win, and the Hogs lose. Like the Liberty game last year. It's a game where it's like Arkansas should win, but in typical Hog fashion, they don't. I don't think they're going to beat Florida. I don't think they can overcome the power of the swamp. Even if the Gators aren't that good, I think the Gators defense shows up, shows out, and the Arkansas defense lays a bit of an egg against what I think is going to be a middling Florida offense led by Graham Mertz at quarterback. So the Hogs lose the game at Florida, but their final 3 games are at home. They can salvage their season somewhat by winning their final 3 games, and I believe that's exactly what they do. They win each of their last 3 games to finish the year at 7-5. They will beat Auburn. Auburn with a new coach in Hugh Freeze. That's great. Good for them. But Arkansas went on the road to Jordan-Hare Stadium, won 41-27 last year with 520 yards of offense. Hugh Freeze is going to get Auburn back into contention, but not this year. He's a great coach, but I don't think he's going to drastically fix this program like that. Back in Fayetteville, Auburn should fall to Arkansas. Arkansas shows up and shows out at home. They own the edge at quarterback. They own the edge at the running scheme. Defensively, one can argue they own a slight edge as well. They beat Auburn. They should cruise past Florida International, and they play Missouri, the battle line rivalry that the Tigers have just dominated since joining the SEC. The Tigers are 7-2 against Arkansas. Since joining the SEC, it's a terrible mark for the Razorbacks. Last year, Arkansas lost 29-27. Again, another goal line miscue for the Razorbacks, failing to score just inches, away from the goal line. It's absolutely ridiculous. They score a touchdown there. They win the game. Said they lose by 2. Arkansas, to me, in all aspects, is better than Missouri. They are the better team. They definitely own the offensive edge. Missouri owns the defensive edge. They're going to have a very salty defense this year, but home field advantage going to be key for the Razorbacks. It's senior day. It's a bit of a rivalry game. They want to get revenge over the Tigers in a game they should have won last year. Arkansas and Fayetteville the last couple of years have played well at home against the Tigers. They do it again now. Sam Pittman gets his team a win. They get one of the wins in the trophy game. They fail against LSU. They fail against A&M, but at least they get Missouri back. And they finished the year at 7-5. Some would say that's a disappointment. I would slightly agree. I think Arkansas going from 6-6 last year, 7-5 this year is a slight improvement, but this team has the talent to win 8 games, maybe even 9 games. You could argue they could beat A&M. You could argue they could beat Ole Miss. You could argue they could beat Florida. Some could say this is a 10-win team, but that's not going to happen. Arkansas is not winning 10 games. I would put the ceiling for the Razorbacks this year at about 8-4. If I'm feeling good, 9-3. But I think 8-4 is the best the Hogs can do, which is the same record they had in 2021. People were thrilled with that then. They'd probably be thrilled with that now. Regardless, Arkansas no longer in the cellar of the conference, no longer the laughingstock of the conference. Razorbacks going to win 7 games. It's going to be a much better year. Those losses that we have are going to be competitive. Maybe things pan out for them, but I think 7-5 is going to be the best they can get. Another mediocre bowl game and a shot at an 8-win season, which all things considered, considering what Arkansas went through the last few years, is nothing to hang their hat about. And also a chance at a 3rd straight bowl victory. Also nothing to hang your head about. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round, and of course, send us some gear to our mailing address down in the description below. We've got some Arkansas gear. We'd love to get some more. Send us to the mailing address to be represented in every single Gridiron Expert video. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.